Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So today we're going to continue the series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and of course it's been a week, which means we have another Sega Saturn Core update from SRG320. Seemingly at random, he decides just to drop some massive cores on us, and over the weekend we got another one giving us some big improvements to a lot of games, as well as some new accuracy tests showing just how close this thing is to real actual Sega Saturn hardware. So we're going to get all involved in that in the video, and even show you some of those granular tests. Before we get too far involved, it'd be a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But honestly, the Sega Saturn Core, every single update just gets closer to that brass ring of being one-to-one accurate with a real Sega Saturn. And one of the games that's seen a lot of improvements in the current core is going to be Princess Crown, a game that is absolutely amazing, has some of the best 2D visuals on the Sega Saturn, and still to this day does not have a completed translation. Of all the amazing translations we've gotten on Sega Saturn, Bulk Slash being my favorite, I'm still always surprised that Princess Crown has not been finished yet, but it kind of does make sense too, because the script is absolutely massive, and I'm sure taking it apart on an actual Sega Saturn is not an easy task. But maybe one day we'll still get that translation. You may notice that sometimes some of the little shadow outlines are going to persist through sprites, and that's going to be slightly different than real hardware. So Princess Crown isn't a game that is perfect, but honestly the little tiny things that aren't correct with it will probably be resolved soon. And last time we took a look at this game, it definitely had a lot worse graphical corruption. And this is one of the games that SRG320 referenced on the GitHub patch notes. The nice thing is every time he puts out a new core, he at least marks a few bugs fixed and references the game, so it's really easy to know what to text next. And honestly, this game is just so much fun. It is such a joy to test. So if you want to see a long-term 10-minute test off the footage of this game, just leave me a comment down below and let me know, because I can definitely make that for you guys. But this is just, again, getting so good. If you didn't pixel peep, you'd really have no idea that this was doing anything other than what real Sega Saturn hardware does. And Princess Crown is just one of those games, absolutely shows the 2D power of the Sega Saturn. It's using VDP1 and VDP2 along with the dual CPUs just to pull off a gorgeous 32-bit image. And I love all the enemies in this game. I've always thought that this bird here kind of looks like a British judge wearing a powder wig, but you leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think. But from the combat to the overall responsiveness to the controls to the music to the visuals, we're like 99.5% to a perfect Princess Crown, and that is absolutely awesome. If some of those little bit of sprite weirdnesses get fixed up in the next core, this is a game that I would say would be one-to-one with real Sega Saturn hardware. But at the current point of recording this video, it's a game you can play from start to finish. You're just going to need a walkthrough, be able to speak Japanese. Now moving on to the actual accuracy test, the SCSP test here is going to go through all the different hardware functions of a Sega Saturn, kind of give you a sense of what's going on behind the scenes. And this has two options, either pass or fail. And you'll see here all the way down the line to the left, all of the different tests that have been going on, all of the different memory read writes and everything are passing. And as we get further on here to the right on FM test 3, you're going to see it takes a minute for everything to check itself, but every single thing down the line so far has been a pass. And then when we get to the last option, it is a pass as well. This is 100% passing the SCSP test, and that means that the hardware reimplementation in FPGA has to be accurate as hell, because if it is off from what that program is expecting, you're going to see a fail. But let's move on to another game right now to give you a sense of some of the other improvements in the core. So next up, we're going to take a look at Digital Monsters Version S Digimon Tamers, or as I'm going to call it for this point forward, just Digimon, because that is a mouthful. It's another game indicated by SRG320, which has seen improvements, and while it definitely isn't the game that everyone has been waiting for on MiSTer FPGA and the Sega Saturn Core, all of these improvements are important. It's going to be your sound sample as well, because it's got some fun music. So go ahead and listen for 45 seconds, and I'll come back and show you more games that just work, as well as a very thirsty Mahjong game that I don't think many people realize but is on Sega Saturn. But enjoy the music because it is good.
Round 1, round 2, round 3.
I mean, honestly, I don't really know that much about Digimon. It's not something I ever gravitated towards back in the day, but this game has way too good of music for what's on screen. And I'm not saying that this game isn't fun. If you're into it, that is awesome, but the music in this game is just a 10 out of 10. But back to all of those passing tests, we've come so far on the MiSTer FPGA Core since I started making videos on this, and I went back to some of my earliest videos from May of 2022. It is now August 2024. That's over 2 years of active development. And we've been testing the Sega Saturn for a long time. And don't forget, if you haven't seen the series for that long, this is what things used to look like. That's not a dig on the core. These things take a lot of time to make, but we used to be able to play Resident Evil until it froze in a lower frame rate with absolutely weirdness things going on the screen, or something like Duke Nukem here not running fast enough and all of the background layer just having corruption in it. But we were so excited to see it look like this back in the day, and it wasn't anywhere near to done. Or something like Die Hard Arcade, you can absolutely tank the frame rate and get all of these polygons persisting into an infinity point, not drawing correctly on the screen. And then if you take a look at the same game today on the current core, you have an absolutely perfect version of Die Hard Arcade to play on MiSTer FPGA. It's been so amazing to see all of the different progress on this core, and I will definitely continue to cover this until it is finished, and well after that with a lot of different tests and best games. But I remember the first time we were able to load a game, Alien Trilogy here. It was one of the first games that actually worked on the core, and we were all blown away just to see Sega Saturn running on MiSTer FPGA as a demo. And then over 2 years later, I can show you accuracy test results where 100% of the different tests pass, just like well-functioning real hardware would. And that's how you end up in a situation where Princess Crown's like 99.5% perfect. And again, just because all of the tests pass doesn't mean that there can't be bugs in certain games or some certain graphical weirdness. There's so many different calls and draws to VDP1 and VDP2 that need to be perfectly strung together, so you can still pass all the tests and end up in situations where there are still a few bugs. If there's any other games you want to see me test, leave me a comment down below, because I can definitely revisit some of the earliest tests on this series now that we have such a mature core here. But again, just take a look at the graphics in Princess Crown. If I was just to screenshot this and put this up online, it would look absolutely perfect. All of the animations, all of the sprites, all of the backgrounds are like 99% of the way there. And if I didn't show you some of the little bit of weirdness, I don't think many people whatsoever would be able to see it. But honestly, you guys are pretty eagle-eyed, and everyone seems to spot something I missed. And for every game like Princess Crown we also test something like Idol Mahjong here by Jalco. That's not the full title, it's in Japanese, and I always get the translation wrong, but this is another game that's improved on the core, and it is definitely one that maybe you want to play after the lights go out. It's really not that dirty, but honestly, compared to all the other games we cover, it is definitely for a certain crowd, and if you like it, you'll like it, and if it's not for you, just know it is improved. But it's got some awesome music, and the audio quality coming through is absolutely incredible, so go ahead and listen for 30 seconds, and I'll be back with a little bit more Sega Saturn to show you. But enjoy, because the music is great. Honestly, the music is fun, and that little riff at the beginning reminds me of something that Van Halen would have done in their power ballad and fun David Lee Roth days. But if this is the type of game that you're into, and no judgments if you are, it is 100% working here on the current MiSTer FPGA Sega Saturn Core. And do be aware, this has not hit update all, so it is still something that you need to manually install over on the MiSTer Discord test channels page. And if you need a tutorial on that, just check my playlist. I've definitely shown you guys a few different times how to manually install these cores. But the Sega Saturn Core just keeps getting better and better. More and more games are marked in the GitHub patch notes as having improvements to them, and it's always fun to have a little bit of a roadmap to actually know what it is we want to test. Because like I said, for every Princess Crown, there's a game like this where maybe not many people would even go through and actually look for bugs, but fixing the bugs in these rare, lesser played games can also help fix bugs in games that we know about and play on Sega Saturn all the time. So again, if there's any rare games you want to see tested, the things you've never seen on the channel before, leave me a comment down below and let me know. I'll definitely try to check each and every one of them, even stuff like idle mahjong. But that is the current situation with the current MiSTer FPGA Sega Saturn Core as of the recording of this video. That is going to be August 26th. It's 104 degrees in Chicago right now, and the real feels about 114. I'm going to go turn the air conditioning on again and try not to die. But the one thing hotter than the temperature right now is the progress on the Sega Saturn Core. Definitely check it out. The next time it updates, we'll do a new video. Bye-bye.